Welcome back. I'm Jessica. We're going to do a little part 2 of Nathan and Hadley's story. We're going to just have a little mom chat. Right, ladies?
Right, yeah.
I'm with Devon and Michelle, and we thought it would just be fun to just talk about how supporting each other has helped this season that they're going through with their kiddos. So I'm just going to kind of dive right in. So this question is going to be for Devon. I'm just going to get into it.
Me first.
What do you admire about Michelle in her season of advocating for Nathan and facing the trials that they have kind of faced lately?
There's a lot of things, but I think specifically just your ability to balance home life, hospital life, and there's not a time that I see her in the hospital that she doesn't have a smile on her face. And I know from living it that we don't always feel like smiling, you know, and it can get lonely and it can get hard, and especially because of the situations we're in just with having other kids, that the majority of hospital time a lot of time falls on us being by ourselves with the kids, and it's a whole new level of exhaustion. It's a lot of alone time at night, watching your baby sleep to think.
Right. Counting breaths.
Yeah, counting breaths, right? And us telling the nurses what we see and what needs to happen and those type of things. But I think the biggest thing I admire, I always knew you were a strong person because we grew up together. You know, we kind of are cut from the same cloth in that way. But just the way that she stepped up and mommed up, like we talked about, just for Nathan. We don't always get the luxury to sort of grieve the situations we're in. Mm-hmm. And so she has 150% shown up for that beautiful boy of hers. Mm-hmm. And so seeing her do that has just been inspiring.
Now, you've been on your journey with Hadley longer than you have with Nathan.
Right.
So how long have you guys been battling with Hadley?
Hadley got sick leap day of 2016. So we are almost 3 years into our journey.
And what about you and Nathan?
We are almost at a year.
So,
definitely, yeah.
What strengths do you pull from Devon watching her go through this, and now you're faced with this?
Yeah, so many. Definitely her faith. I know even before we were diagnosed, I followed her story and, you know, of course, being close with her, but watched also from the sidelines because there's not much you can do to help. You know, a lot of times it's just following through, and her never wavering faith. Like, she has just remained strong, remained hopeful, and then just, you know, again, the same, you just mom up, and just her ability to just own it. And, you know, it's the cards we were dealt, and let's make whatever we can make out of it. And she's definitely stayed strong and made that. But I've not ever seen a falter, a question in faith. And I think definitely through what they're going through, I think most people probably would have that moment where, why me? Yeah. You know, why my child? And I just have, if she's done it, she's never made it public. Yeah. But it's amazing.
How has it been supporting, having that support with each other with this? Because I know a lot of medical mamas out there get, like you said, they get really lonely. We hear that a lot in our Go Shout Love stories. So it's a huge blessing that you guys have each other and that you can be real with each other. Like, let's just talk about that for a minute, like having someone to be real with, because it's not all the choose joy and, you know, the big, you always look for blessings, but you have real raw moments too.
Yeah, and there's been many a late night text. Usually, Hadley was on different treatments for a while, and we just had to step down that deep, dark chemo road. And I think so often in my journey, and I probably know Michelle's too, but there's sort of these landmines that you think we're okay as long as we don't have to do this particular treatment or whatever. And for me, it was a big bad chemo. It was because you know the side
intimidating.
effects. It's intimidating, and you know.
Had you had to do chemo with Hadley? Was this something new?
The chemotherapy was new for us.
So you really pulled strength from
and so
Michelle and
I did. I texted her the night before we had to start chemotherapy and was like, I'm struggling.
What do I do? Yeah.
What do I do? How did you do this? How do you sit? For us, it was oral chemo, and I told her, I said, I don't think it goes against everything in me as a mom to give her this medication, you know, because our job is to protect. And I know it was protecting her in the sense that it was treating her medical diagnosis, but it just felt so heavy, and
you never get past the fact that it's poison.
Right.
Like it's a life-saving poison, and I mean that's how many, I think I would say most people who have to give chemo to their child is, you are literally giving your child a form of a poison, but it is a life-saving poison, and you just really have to hold on to the fact that all of these 3-page rap sheets of side effects, like you just have to
now, why do you, just for curiosity out of me, why do you call it poison? I mean, is it just because of the side effects and everything that comes with it?
It's something that, if you encountered probably in walking by, it would, one of them that Nathan gets, has to have through a fresh IV, through a fresh access, because it can harm the skin. So, if just touching the skin is harmful, that's running through my baby's blood. That's running through his veins. But so is leukemia. And so was leukemia. So it's, you just have to know that, I mean, they're wearing the first time he got it, I remember John and I both just sitting in that hospital room and just thinking, like that moment where it was just silence. But they're fully suited up. I mean, not like scuba gear or anything like that, but she's in a blue apron, a different apron, gloved up, masked up, and they're about to put this chemo, this medicine. Like I said, it's life-saving, but it's very quick to...
It's very scary.
It is. And so you can't help but think poison, but it's not. It's medicine. You
don't hear that stuff on the other side. Like when I'm not I don't have a medically fragile child, and I wouldn't think about someone having to suit up to give my child medicine. But when I hear chemo, I think it's a medicine they're getting in an IV, and it's going to help fight the cancer. But there's a lot more to that.
And I think just the weight of the decisions too, because you're presented for us, there's no black or white treatment protocol, and so it really is this may work, this might not work, but are you willing to risk the side effects? And one of the side effects for her chemotherapy that she just took was, like death at first infusion. And so it's rare, but we live in the land of rare. So this 1% chance, we have routinely fallen in that 1%. And so you really are sort of forced into a position of
advocating
and being okay with what you're facing. And kind of circling back to your question, I think sort of the support that Michelle has provided for me is to not only provide obviously compassion. I'm sorry you're here, and we routinely say that I'm so sorry we're on this journey together, but you're not alone. But she just kind of reoriented me, both through you're going to get through it, but also mom up. You got to get it done. Which is what I needed to hear, and vice versa. It wasn't a lack of compassion or anything, but we just know sometimes you just got to go, you know what? It is what it is. This is where we are, and you just have to get it done.
And the interesting thing is you say that about me, and for me, it's Devon being like, it's okay to go close the door and cry in the bathroom. Like, it's okay to let them see you cry. So, we kind of mentioned earlier in the prior podcast that we were raised like siblings, and it really is like that. You kind of feed off of each other, and one of you may be stronger in one thing and one of you may be stronger in the other, and it does help to have somebody say, it's okay to cry. It is okay to let somebody see you feel.
But you'll get back up.
But stand up. Stand up and do what you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you, like each of you to answer this, what advice would you give a mom who's facing a new diagnosis? What would be one of the first things you would want to tell her?
Accept help.
Accept help. Yeah, that's a good one. I'd say don't Google, but we're moms, and you're going to Google. Accept help.
But educate yourself. It's educate yourself, but do it in the right fashion. So, as I mentioned before, our doctor gave us when we were first diagnosed, he gave me 3 websites, and he was like, I know you're going to Google. I know you're going to search the internet. Use these. And that was my lifeline, and still is really, to go back to and find a community, like
find your tribe.
Find your tribe. That's exactly it.
Definitely those things, and then I would say, take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's true too.
I think that's been a struggle. I think we sort of started this thing thinking there was going to be an end, if that makes sense, and so I didn't do the things that I needed to do to take care of myself because I just felt like once I get through this part, then I can take care of X, Y, or Z, right? And then as we begin to really understand, okay, this is a chronic, lifelong, life-threatening deal. Okay, I've got to learn to live life around this thing. So I've got to learn to care for myself and take care of her, because if I'm not okay, Hadley's not okay.
If you're not your best, they know it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you just need to learn to give yourself a little grace. And not be hard on yourself
That's a good one.
when you have the hard moments.
I think that's the hard part, because so many measures of success for me as a mom were, am I fixing the right snacks? Am I homeroom mom? Am I, all the sort of Pinterest mom stuff?
Oh, we live in a world of comparison.
Yeah, we
so
do.
It's
so
hard.
it's a normal struggle. But I think when you are dropped in this land with sort of a chronically ill child, my measure of success stayed the same for a while. And so it just really felt like I was surviving, but I wasn't succeeding. And I've had to redefine my role as a mother. And my role as a mother is not going to be bringing the cupcakes for the Valentine's party, because it's just not going to happen. I can't. We have chemotherapy on Monday. She feels terrible on Tuesday. And so I've had to sort of redefine my success as, am I getting her where she needs to be? Am I meeting the needs of my other kids? And really be okay with letting it go a lot of the extras. And that's hard sometimes.
I would say also, as a mom who worked outside of the home, who had a very promising career, you also have to let go of what you thought your career would be, or what you thought because everything plummeted for me. It just crashed, and rightfully so, it's going to happen, but you have to also think through that and accept that you may not be the same employee you were beforehand, and it might take you a little while to get back to that, because now I literally, if I'm away from him, it's about every hour. How's he doing? Does he have a fever? Is he sick? Is he eating? Has he had his peas a day? It's just the things that you check on
every
that you
day. Yeah, it's never,
no matter what you're in the middle of. Before it didn't distract you.
Yeah, absolutely. It never goes away.
Yeah,
it's always there.
I'm glad that you guys have each other. That's awesome that you guys can find support in all of this.
We're very blessed.
Absolutely.
So if a mom out there who's finding herself in this situation and she doesn't have a family member like you guys have for each other, where can she find support from other moms? Are you guys Facebook, Instagram? Are there communities out there where they can find other moms going for this?
Cancer diagnoses? There's a group called Momcology. Okay. And so take oncology, but it's momcology, and it's because we become oncologists. We're momcologists now. We know all kinds of things about the blood, or whatever the treatment is. So, if you have a cancer diagnosis, definitely look for the momcology groups. You have to answer some questions, but it is is
that on
amazing.
Facebook?
It's on Facebook, yes.
Okay.
And then there's, I would say, also, like, you're in clinic with your kid, or you're in treatment with your kid. Look around, and now I know. I see that new parent, it's like there's just this lost look. I feel like I don't have that so much anymore, but you can always just see that lost, that just the world just crashed down on them. Go hug them. Go introduce, don't be afraid to say, hey, or if you're the mom that you see the mom that isn't lost right now,
you almost
go to them and be like, hey, I'm new. Like,
you almost do business cards.
Like, you do. Like,
we're going through this.
And don't be afraid. I know when we were first diagnosed, there was a mom that saw us out at a restaurant, me with the kids out of the restaurant, and she could hear me talking to my girlfriend, and she was like, hey, I don't mean to pry, but this is my son, and he's 5 years out, and look at him. And that was the ray of hope that I needed. God put her in my life. So don't be afraid to go ask somebody, hey, what's your diagnosis? What, this is my kid's diagnosis. Do you know anybody? I reached out to Devon early on, and I was like, hey, we're going to Texas Children's Maine. She set me up in a Facebook Messenger group with, like, several moms, and some of them have been my lifeline. Like, ask for help.
Yeah.
Reach out.
Absolutely. For Hadley's diagnosis, it's a little more rare, but there is a parent group for autoimmune encephalitis, and so there's some moms there that have been a great support. And of course, you can absolutely reach out to me. Holding Hadley on Facebook is where we are. We have some on Instagram, but it's mostly Facebook right now.
What kind of strengths do you guys find through having a Facebook page for your kiddo? Because I know both of you
We do.
Holding Hadley and Nathan's
Army.
Nathan's Army.
Yeah. I think for us, it's sort of a clear, and we definitely are people of faith, and we believe in the power of prayer and things like that. But it's been, that community has carried us through. That they're praying, they're there, there are words of encouragement, and I've sort of made it my own mission, I guess, because we were so alone in the beginning of our diagnosis. We found one other family in the nation at that point that had a similar diagnosis, and so now at least once a month, if not more than that, I have a new mom with that lost look sort of contact me through her page and say, I just got diagnosed with this. What do I do? Where do I go from here? Really and so we've had, I have several, it was just a couple of weeks ago, my mom called me at like 11 p.m. at night and we talked for like an hour just because she needed to know there's someone further down the road. You're going to be okay. Take a deep breath.
That would be
here's where we start. Yeah. And so I've definitely been thankful to be able to use that as a resource to just be there for other moms that are sitting in those similar shoes because we didn't have anybody. It was just an unknown thing. And so it was really... It's nice to see social media for good. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And sure. People have been so encouraging. I mean, there's just been little things that people will do or say or whatever. And so it's definitely been a very positive experience for us.
Yeah, same for us. And I've not gotten anything negative. And there have been times when I've been, like facing that slump or in that deep dive where you just look at it and you just get the encouragement from people, or you see, how many people are following the page, or hey, I'm praying for you, or just that little check-in, from people, whether it's the text or the chat or the message.
And it has to be nice too when you give an update about your kid and then you see people who are reading it and the comments, and that's an encouraging thing to see.
Yeah,
and I've gone through the followers, and I'm like, I have no clue who these people are. I've never met them before, but hey, you know what? They are praying for my child, and I appreciate that.
Well, and it's interesting because Hadley, of course, has glasses, and at 3, it's not very common to have glasses, but we would go out in the store in another city, and we would look across and see somebody wearing her shirt. And so it was always interesting to kind of look across and go, I have no idea who that person is. We're in a completely different city, and they are praying for us.
We've had a Go Shout Love mom say that when they see people wearing Go Shout Love, their Go Shout Love shirt, it's like a virtual hug.
It is.
It really is. From a complete stranger.
And Nathan will, like I can show him pictures, and I'm like, hey, look, this person's in your team. They're on your army, and he's like, oh, I'll tell them thank you. It's just like he even appreciates.
Nathan's little voice, by the way,
is it not the cutest thing ever? It's a little cartoon voice.
It is a cartoon voice.
And that accent, I don't know where it comes from. I'm not sure. He doesn't really have a Texas accent.
It's so cute.
He's something sweet.
He wins them
Hadley
over.
was in there. I was teasing her. I'm like, you're just going to stay the night with me? She said, no, I don't think I am. She was very like, I don't think I'm going to do that.
Stranger danger. That's hilarious.
Well, thank you guys for talking with us. And
thanks for sharing.
We're excited. Yeah, we're